Okay, so I'm going to explain my cold calling strategy and process doing this diagram.
Every single day, I'm gonna make something great.
I already had the diagram laid out, and I just erased the board, and now I'm going to just basically do it again. So it all starts with building a list. So I'm going to build my list. There's many ways to build your list. You know, driving for dollars, probate, buying a list, etc. So I'm going to be buying a list. So and with the specific criteria. So I buy the list. Once I buy the list, I'm going to skip trace. And that's the process of finding the phone numbers of the people on the list. So when you buy the list, I am going to have mailing address, names, and property address. And mostly it's not going to have the phone number, so that's why I'm going to do the skip tracing. So I'll share with you the resources that I'm using for this in the description. So you can go ahead and check it out as well. So I skip trace it, and then once I have a skip trace, I'm going to have phone numbers, hopefully for all of them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to import to my dialer. Okay, so my dialer, because I'm going to be doing a lot of phone calls, a lot of dials, the most efficient thing to do is to get an auto dialer because that saves you time. You're not dialing by hand, you're not listening to voicemails. An auto dialer maximizes your time. So I'm going to import it into my dialer. And again, I'll give you the link to the dialer that I'm using. I'm very happy with it, and you can try it up for 14 days and take a look at it for yourself. So I import into my dialer, and then I start dialing. Okay, so this is what happens once I start dialing. There's several outcomes to the phone call, several outcomes to the dial. Those are going to be called dispositions. And you want to be able to track all of these dispositions and know what to do in advance and plan it out. So that's what we're doing here with the flow chart, with the process. So first thing we want to have some type of a spreadsheet or software to track the outcome of these calls and each item on the list. I'll show you what I'm doing here. So when you dial, the first question that I have here is, was it answered? Okay. When I dialed, was a phone call answered? Okay, so it's either yes or no. So if it's a no, there was no answer. Okay, then I am going to ask a question, is a voicemail set up? Okay, if voicemail is set up, sometimes phone numbers just the answer or there's no voicemail. So if it has a voicemail, or if it doesn't have a voicemail, I am going to let's say no voicemail. I'm going to send them a text, and I'm going to put it back into the queue to call back later. And this one I'm going to make it in 3 days I'm going to call them again. So that's what happens when there's no answer, there's no voicemail. I send them a text and put it back in the queue, so it goes back to the funnel. If there is a voicemail, then I leave the message, and I leave a voicemail. I'm also going to text. Okay, I'm also going to text, and I'm going to send them a postcard. So that's kind of a drip campaign with a postcard, and put them in the queue. Okay. Queue, 3 days. Okay, so that's the outcome of that. Okay, so let's say that was if they didn't answer. Okay, if they do answer, okay, now the next question is, was it the wrong number? Sometimes it answers, you get the wrong person, it's a wrong number. That's a possible outcome. Okay, if it's the wrong number, then I'm going to try to make the most out of this and ask the question, do they know anybody? Okay. Do they know anybody? You know, maybe the person is the wrong number, the wrong person, but you can have a conversation. You happen to know somebody that, you know, you can get in touch. If they say yes, then you get their info and then you add it to the list. And then you update the list and then you put it back into the process. If they don't know anybody, then it's just trash. You trash the number. You make sure you get that done so you don't waste your time with the same number again. Okay. So if it's not the wrong number, that means you're talking to somebody. So then the question is, the person that you're talking to are they motivated? Is it a motivated caller? Is it a motivated seller? Basically, you're speaking to somebody motivated. Okay. If they're not motivated, you know, that's based on the conversation you're having. Then you're gonna put them in another campaign, another follow-up series. You're gonna send them a letter. Okay. And I'm gonna follow up with a phone call. Okay. Put them in the queue. And maybe they're not motivated now, so I'm gonna call them up maybe in 6 months. Okay? If they're not motivated. If they are motivated, okay, I'm gonna try to set up an appointment based on the conversation. So, can you set up an appointment? If it turns out you're not able to set up an appointment for, you know, whatever reason, the conversation didn't go well, you put them in a campaign when you're gonna send them mail. They're qualified, they are motivated, but you weren't able to set up an appointment. Okay? Set up a mail, you're gonna call them back, right? You put them in the call queue. And this one you're gonna call again 6 months again. And I would mail them monthly or maybe a postcard monthly, but you wanna make sure you get that motivation again and get that appointment. If you are able to set up the appointment, then that's the outcome that you want to get, right? You want to schedule it. Okay. So this is the outcome really that we want from the cold call. You want to be able to schedule an appointment. So that is the flow. Let me just go over it again from the beginning. You build a list. You skip trace to get the numbers. You input it into your dialer, then you start dialing. When you make a phone call, you dial. Did they answer? No, they didn't answer. Send them is the voicemail set up? No, then send a text and put them in the queue again and call them back in 3 days. If the voicemail is set up, you set up you send them a voicemail, you drop them a voicemail. And you send them a text, and then you send them, put them in a campaign for postcard, and put them in the queue for 3 days again to call them back. So you can speak to them unless they return your call. Okay, if they do answer the call, is it the wrong number? Yes, the wrong number. Try to find out if they know anybody. If they don't know anybody, then trash the number and make sure it doesn't come back to the list. If they do know somebody, then you get the information and you add it to the list, and then it goes back into the loop, into the queue. Okay. If it's not a wrong number, then are they motivated? You start the conversation with the seller. With the potential seller, if they're not motivated, you put them in a campaign, letter campaign. You add them to the queue and follow up in 6 months. If they are motivated, then are you able to set up an appointment to see the property, and then hopefully make an offer, right? If they're not, if you can't set the appointment, put them in the mail queue, and call them in 6 months. Again, stays in the process. If you're able to schedule the appointment, then that's pretty much it. So there's 4 things here to track, to have ready. Here, voicemail, you have to have your pre-recorded voicemail, text message template, and the process to call them back. The other one here is another process here. Another outcome or disposition, you can call it. And another disposition here. So you got 4. Okay? Obviously you want to schedule it, and over here you want to add it to the list when it's a wrong number, and you want to trash it. Those are the dispositions for this call flow. Okay? So that's pretty much it. I'm going to put the link to the software that I'm using to skip trace, the service that I'm using for skip tracing, and also the dialer, so you can give it a try. You can use it for yourself. All right, thank you. One final thought that I wanted to make sure it's clear is that the outcome, the dispositions, need to be tracked individually for each lead. And basically each lead is you're gonna tag it with, depending on how the disposition, which disposition it goes to. Okay, so each person on the list is gonna be tagged. So at the end of your campaign, you're gonna have the same list, and each item, each record in the list is gonna be tagged depending on the disposition, on what happened in the call. So it's not like you're gonna be texting them right away while you're making a phone call, while you're gonna drop. The voicemail actually happens right away. The dialer drops the voicemail right away while you're making the call. The text and everything and the mail campaign, that you're gonna do afterwards, but you're gonna be tagging them. The software, the dialer is gonna tag the lead with the disposition. So it basically keeps track of your list and what happens when you call them. So, and because the dialer is dialing numbers one after the other, one after the other. Once you're done with one phone call, it's dialing other phone calls. So you're not gonna be sitting idle, waiting for phone calls, the same way you will be doing when you're doing a manual phone call. It will be, your time is gonna be, it's gonna be much more efficient when you're dialing with a dialer. So I just wanted to make sure that's clear. If you haven't used a dialer before, that's how that works. And that's why the dispositions are very important to have. And you want to prepare this before you actually start dialing. You want to have your voicemail set up that you can drop right away. You can also set up a ringless voicemail in one of these. You can actually drop them a ringless voicemail. For example, if there's no answer, you might, or if somebody has the wrong number, or maybe if they hang up on you, you can send them a ringless voicemail. So this is just an example, okay? It's just something a plan to follow. But you can tweak it, the number of days, the number of, what exactly you're gonna mail them or do. As long as you have a plan in place with your cold calling, you just, and also obviously you wanna have a script. When you're speaking to the person, you wanna have some type of a script as a guideline, and that ideally will help you. So that's what I'm gonna be doing, and that's what I'm doing. And I'll share my results later on. Thanks.